That's right. First meeting of the vote. Watch it. Thanks for that. Always do the evaluation. What else? Thank you. What's going on? Almost 30 tables. Yeah. Me? All right, everyone, it's 6 p.m. on Thursday, 14th of November. I call this meeting of Rome City Council to order. Pastor, if you'd like, please give us the okay.
Guys, dear the Father, I thank you for this day, and I thank you that you bless us with, Lord, city, and I pray that you'll please us continue to be with meetings, and I pray that you'll please bless this one to follow. Lord, I pray that you'll please us have your governing hand upon it, and I pray that you'll please us be with those that are elected officials. God, I pray that you'll please us be with our fire chief, our police chief, and that you just be with those men that are serving underneath them, and I pray that you'll please us keep them safe and bring them home to their families. Lord, I pray that you'll please us bless the remainder of the day. Thank you for this wonderful day that we have. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the
Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and
indivisible. Thank you, everyone. We have a quorum of council members. At this time, do we have any public comments?
Yes, sir. The first one is Mrs. Ashley Majors.
Council and residents of Rome and guests, I just want to say thank you to Pastor Van Sant. Thank you for
Cut out, is it not working? It's not working.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there it goes. Pastor Van Sant, thank you for coming monthly.
It's not going.
Hello, there it goes. Okay. Thank you, Pastor Van Sant, giving your time monthly to us. Pastor Van Sant is with Antioch Baptist Church at County Road 4651, located here in Rome. So if you could, just want to let everyone know. So thank you again, Pastor. We greatly appreciate you blessing our community. Sorry.
What, do we have some more?
Yes, sir. The next one is Randall Pelton, would like to speak about the municipal court.
Did I miss something?
Oh, mark it up.
Actually, I have a couple of issues. First one's for the mayor. I attempted to serve process on the city council members, or a bunch of people here, and your attorney over there advised them not to accept service. So I didn't get them served. I did get the police served, they accepted it. I didn't file criminal charges against the attorney for avoidance of service. I gave that to one of your peace officers, and to my knowledge, he did not give notice to some magistrate the way Article 2.13 paragraph C commands him to do. So it's not an issue I'll take at this particular meeting, but I do have some documents I'd like to give you, Mr. Mayor.
And like, you can give it to us. Let Ms. Brooks, please.
Those are criminal complaints against Judge Minton and Officer Davis. I filed a criminal complaint with Officer Davis against Officer Grant. And under Article 2.13, he was commanded to give notice to some magistrate. And to my knowledge, he did do that. And the way I read the penal code of the state of Texas, 38.05, that's shielding from prosecution. That is a criminal complaint, and I will sign it in front of you. And in as much as under 2.09 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, you are a magistrate in the state of Texas, I'm going to expect you to do precisely what Article 15.09 commands you to do. And that's issue a warrant for both of them. The complaint against Minton is for not issuing a warrant under 1509 when I filed criminal complaints with him against the sheriff and Justice of the Peace Jane Morrow in Decatur. And I filed against Judge Morrow for not issuing warrants against the sheriff. I sued the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme for $20 million in federal court in his personal capacity because he refused to issue a warrant under 15.09 Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. So I suspect your lawyer over here is going to give you some song and dance and self-down your pants about that. But I'm going to ask you to read that code carefully. It does not allow you any discretion. I probably should. Most other states, most every state I've ever looked at. And I'm a radio talk show host out of Austin, and I do a show on legal reform. I live over in Boyd. I've had a couple of tickets here. And so far, Judge Minton has absolutely, totally ignored law. He's made it clear that he does not care what the law says. So I'm going to take him to task, and I don't want to take you to task.
Mr. Kelvin, your time is up.
Thank you.
Well, I have one more thing.
Our
Thank you,
next
sir.
speaker is J.C. Barba or Joni Sanchez about traffic and signage.
Is that your paperwork?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Pastor, for your blessing. My name is J.C. Barba, and along with, we've been honored to belong to the community here in Rome for about 11 years now, owning the local McDonald's restaurant next to Love's Truck Stop. We've been seeing an increase in market population, traffic, and everything, especially over the last couple of years. We're here to express our concern about the safety of our employees and possibly of most of the customers too, as they exit our parking lot onto 114. I don't know if the council has already looked at this and is something in the works, or is there something that we need to petition more formally to see if there is any implementation of signage, traffic lights or something. I know that during this meeting you cannot give answers, but that's what we're mostly here to express our concern about the safety of everybody around our facility and maybe the whole intersection here from the ramps on and off on 114 and 287. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
And that concludes the list of speakers, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to announcements from mayor and council members. November 16th, that'll be this Saturday from 8 to noon is fall cleanup and the shredding day. That means we'll have a truck here to do shredding of documents, if you so desire. You just need to bring proof of residency. November 28th and 29th, the city office will be closed to observe Thanksgiving. December 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th will be nice for our Santa sightings. December 2nd is also the Planning and Zoning Commission's regular meeting at 6 p.m. December 3rd, we will have monthly bulk trash pickup. December 4th, we will be testing the outdoor warning siren, weather permitting. And December 7th, we will have our Christmas tree lighting and our family event with the Rhome's Veteran Group. It's all the details will be on the city's website. December 12th, we will have our regular city council meeting at 6 p.m. Also at this time, I would like to ask Amanda, could you please give us an update on the progress of our bond fund and our work for that?
Yes, sir. We have, and Mr. Dominguez can weigh in as well. We have been working with the engineer to finalize the paperwork and the plans as it relates to the West wastewater treatment plant. We have also reached out to him today to verify the location of the water wells and what is more advantageous given our current infrastructure and the ground storage tank that we need to use. We have already started on the sanitary sewer line project through the smoke testing, as well as we've done some manhole cammering. So all of that stuff is already in the works. I know that the people graciously agreed to invest in the community, and we just want to make sure that people know we are moving that as quickly as we can. The bonds were actually not sold until October, and we didn't receive funding until about 2 weeks ago. So the money is in the bank, and we are now able to really move things forward, if you will, and we're just waiting on some final documents from the engineering company. Mr. Dominguez also met with the specific engineer that's working on the West wastewater treatment plant program, and we finalized some last details for them, so we expect something back within the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We're slow process, but it is moving, and we can't wait till we can start turning dirt.
Neither can we.
Yeah. Next up, we will have a regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and Mr. Knight, I would like to turn this over to you, so you gavel yours in order, and we'll run concurrent.
Thanks, Mayor. It is 6:11. I will call this Planning and Zoning Special Meeting to order. And I have a quorum of commissioners here in sight. And I'd like to welcome our new and current members, all of you. And we have to move on here tonight to a couple of things. We've got a public hearing on an annexation ordinance. And we've got some planning to do and zoning. And I'd like to, at this time, welcome Stephen Cook and get some words from him on just what we are attacking tonight. Mr. Cook?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I could pause you gentlemen for just a moment, if you'll go ahead and turn your microphone on when you're speaking, that'll help the owl pick up the information. We're still having a little bit of a struggle with the go-to-meeting portion of the agenda, so I would encourage people to try and log in through the Microsoft Teams link that's on the agenda. This owl does a much better job, and so if you can use your mics, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tonight we have a joint public hearing. We have several items on two different parcels. The joint public hearing is allowed and available so that all these public hearings have been appropriately noticed in the newspaper, and surrounding property owners have been annexed. We are going to switch up the agenda just a little bit. All of the items will be heard this evening, but we're going to go with the first item that we're going to ask for consideration by the City Council and City Council only at this time is a annexation service agreement. This is number 2 on the agenda. Discuss and consider action approving an annexation service agreement between the City of Rome and Structured Building Group. An annexation service agreement is required by state law in order for any property that is going to be annexed into the community. The city needs to have a plan in order to provide services to that property. The annexation service agreement talks about making sure that there is going to be police service, there is going to be fire service,
there is going to be utility service to the property. That does not mean that the city is going to build the utilities onto it, but it'll be able to make them available for the developer to build and tie into city services. Additionally, other kinds of things is solid waste pickup and the general aspects of any municipal services are going to be provided. So this is what the agreement is, and allows the city to make sure that it will extend those services to the property if the property is fully annexed by ordinance. So at this point, this is not a public hearing for an annexation agreement. It is a decision by the city council at this time.
Yeah, this item comes back to the council and it's gonna be up for discussion. Actually,
All right, I'd like to open it up for the council for any discussion, questions for our guest.
Just to bring council up to speed, I've been working with this developer for about a year, talking about this particular project. They had originally wanted to purchase 20 acres in that area, but were able to close on the 10.285. They've been extremely easy to work with and very patient as we've worked through a series of steps to get it to this particular stage in council and P&Z reviewing the information. So I don't see Mr. Barnes here this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of the conversations that I've had with his team.
I didn't hear any recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission?
or I'm not feeling it's not sure if I'm probably. This one actually, it doesn't go to P and Z first. This one goes to council, and the council will have to actually take action on this service agreement first, and then we'll go back to the other items for the P and Z to consider.
Amanda, would you mind talking to us a little bit about the service provision plan?
So the service provision plan, I think Stephen could speak to the particulars about this, but you'll recall we did discuss this development as a council about a year ago, and council had expressed some concerns on the lot size at that time as it was presented. So the developer went back to the drawing board and reorganized his development to meet those concerns that P&Z and council had. We talked about this in a very broad manner. And so they have met those requirements, but I think Mr. Cook could probably answer those particulars.
So the agreement is basically what does the city provide for any properties inside the city limits? If there is a positive annexation ordinance approved by the council this evening, then these are the things that the council would allow to be serviced to the community bringing in, including fire protection, emergency medical services, solid waste collection, maintenance and wastewater facilities. Once they are built and accepted by the city, they have to be built to city standards, and so those services would then be part of the city of Rome. Same thing with streets. You go through a construction process. The city would inspect those streets and make sure that they are built to city standards before they accept them. And then once they are accepted, then they become dedicated to the city, and the city would then maintain them over time as public streets. So this is an agreement that is required by the state in order for any annexations to occur, that there is a formal statement that the city will service this property if it is annexed into the community.
I guess what I want to know is, do we feel like we have the necessary services? We're going to be able to provide water, sewer, police, fire.
Yes, ma'am, we do. This is not a development the size of something like Prairie Point, or certainly not what's south of the highway. This is a 10-acre annexation, if you will, and we do have the capacity from which to serve this development. If it was several hundred acres, then we'd be having a different approach. Mr. Johnson, did you have a question?
No, I was just asking why we wouldn't do this if we annexed it.
there's no reason not to do this. It's just something that it's part of the formality of the process prior to the annexation. And since we've not handled a case like this for a while, the last time we annexed something in was QT. And we've had some staff changes since then, so we're trying to make sure we've got all the Ts crossed and the Is dotted so that we can meet the legal requirements. So I would recommend to council that you approve the services agreement as presented.
Is there any other discussion? All right, well, does anyone want to offer a motion?
I move to approve the annexation service plan between the city of Rome for 10.285 acres and the J.C. Tatum Survey Abstract Number 817, Whites County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Vote unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Knight, I'll kick it back to you.
All right, so thank you, Mayor and Council. So the next item that we have to go through is a development agreement. So the development agreement is with the property developer. It is again, only a council decision on the development agreement. The development agreement goes into what is it that they're going to build? And we go into a development agreement prior to annexation to make sure that if annexation does fail and they have the ability to still plat the property in the county, that they are held to certain standards. And so we're going into an agreement with them that they are going to develop the property as they have presented, that it has the same type of information in the ordinance of the number of lots. They are looking at 50 single-family residential lots that are going to be set to a minimum lot size of 4,400, although that's the smallest lot that they can have. Most of the lots are larger than that square footage. They are also going to have that development agreement also has the lot layout in it, so that they are going to be held by that agreement that they are going to develop in this particular format. So all of the aspects that would be as part of a zoning ordinance are also in the development agreement. And again, it is something that allows the developer to, he wishes and has voluntarily asked to annex into the community. But having an agreement in place also protects the city's interests in the way that this property is going to develop over time.
Now, this does require council approval this time.
Now, one thing I'd like to update council on in this development agreement, I've read through this and I appreciate Mr. Cook's help on all of this documentation because it is fairly complex through which to make sure that we have everything in order. If you read through the entirety of the packet on page 6 of the development agreement and talking with staff, we have amended this agreement from what is in your packet. Item under section 3.04 under building permits, inspection of structures and certificates of occupancy under letter number E, it does specify that each building permit would be $1,000. It is better and more prudent for council. I would recommend that we change this verbiage to say that the building permits will be calculated according to the city's current and existing fee schedule. If this takes longer for it to move forward, then if it's a year or 2 years before anything is built and we change that fee schedule, then we've really defeated the purpose of the council setting that fee schedule. So we have altered that development agreement if council moves forward to reflect that it should comport with our current and existing schedule of fees. I'd also like to bring to your attention on page 8, under section 5.04 drainage. The developer is also asking that the city maintain the open space lots for the detention pond. That is something that council has the flexibility, I would say, to either accept that condition or not. It's not a very large development, so they're not going to have, I don't think, a highly functioning HOA, and that might be a little more difficult to keep it maintained and mowed. But know that if we accept it as written, that's something that Public Works is going to have to pick up as part of their general duties, is mowing this area. Does that make sense?
So it's gonna be a HOA?
Mr. Cook, do you know in talking with Mr. Barnes, if he state that?
Mr. Administrator, Mr. Barnes said that he felt that it was too small of a subdivision to have an HOA. There were only 50 lots, and being able to go forward with a fee schedule to be able to maintain the little facilities that they are having, that it would not be able to be maintained over time.
That was kind of what I was thinking as far as this development as well. So there's really, I mean, council can always require the developer to maintain it. However, that's not, we may have some trouble enforcing that.
Oh, no, if it was HOA, I was gonna say
Yes.
that would be on them, but if it's not, then
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Is there any other discussion from council? All right, do I have a does anyone like to offer a motion of approval or disapproval?
I move that we approve the resolution approving a development agreement with Standard Building Group for Hickory Meadows containing 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum Survey, abstract number 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street, with the understanding that this building agreement will include building permits that are calculated according to the current fee schedule.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you very much. Sir?
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is to actually consider the annexation ordinance. This is a ordinance that is written in order to specify which property is going to be annexed into the community. It is a public hearing. It is a decision only by the city council. Once a annexation ordinance, if approved, the property is automatically placed into the city limits of the city and is given a zoning district of agricultural. So that's why we have a zoning decision later on this evening. But the ordinance is available for your review and in your packet, and staff recommends approval of the annexation ordinance. So the city council will need to open a public hearing.
Yeah.
Hold a public hearing, and then they will discuss and vote on the annexation.
Okay. All right, at this time, it is 6:26 PM. I'd like to open the public hearing for to consider the ordinance for annexation of 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum Survey, abstract number 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street. I'd like to open the floor for any comments.
I have a question. The 200-foot boundary, what does that mean?
Sir, if you could go to the microphone, please.
Oh, sorry. It's on.
It's not working. Disregard. Oh, we need to turn it on.
330 Red Bud Street. I'm just was curious what the 200-foot boundary meant.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, you may.
All right, so with any type of zoning ordinance, which we will be hearing later this evening, the state requires us to notify all property owners within 200 feet of the property that is to be zoned. Since this property is also an annexation, we have noticed in the newspaper, in the Wise County Messenger, about this public hearing for the annexation. We have also noticed in the newspaper about the zoning ordinance, and have sent out public notices to all the property owners within 200 feet. Any action that is taken by the Planning and Zoning Commission or City Council this evening does not affect your property in its zoning, or if in the annexation. You are just being notified, and this is the opportunity for you, if you have an opinion about the development of this property under subject, this is your opportunity to present your views to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, are there any other public comments? We have no other comments. It is now 6:28. I'd like to call this public meeting to a close. At this time, I'd like to open the floor for council for any discussion.
Okay, so with this annexation, what are we on the hook for?
So generally, it's the same as any other development or residential subdivision, if you will. The way council has approved the development agreement, we will mow the open area where the detention pond is. Everything else will pretty much be taken care of by the homeowners themselves as far as the lots. We will eventually be deeded the streets within the development as part of the city, and when they need to be resurfaced, that will be our responsibility. We will provide water and sewer to said development. There is a hookup close to that particular area, and I've talked to Mr. Dominguez, and we do have the capacity from which to service it. We will add it to our rotation for police and fire, and just treat it as a smaller version of Crown Point. I mean, it's in the same general area.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what's happening. I just want to make sure that everyone else understands. Are they, the development, they're the ones putting in the infrastructure?
Correct.
They're the ones doing all of that, correct?
Yes, they'll put in the streets and the infrastructure and hook up to our system, yes.
Are the streets gonna have curbs?
The streets are going to have curbs. They are going to have, internal, drainage, and they also will have sidewalks.
All right, there any further discussion by council? Any other questions? Well, at this time, do I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I move to recommend approval of ordinance 2024-19 for the zoning of 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum survey. Abstract number 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street, to plan development for single-family residential on a minimum of 4,400 square foot lots.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Sir, turn it back.
Yes, sir. And so, this item is now for the zoning of the property. We have an annexation. So now we need to zone the property. The, property that, it is going to be 50 single-family detached lots. They're going to have access, from, Hickory Street. There is a primary access on the west side of the property. There is going to be also a lot, on the, southern, southeast corner of the property, that is going to be reserved for emergency access only. So that way there isn't going to be a 50 lot cul-de-sac. The developer intends at some point in the future, he hopes to be successful with this project and be able to acquire additional property and add on to the subdivision into the future. But we wanted to, myself and the engineer wanted to make sure that that there was going to be secondary access availability in case there is a point where that initial access point is blocked, and then somebody might have an emergency action later in the subdivision, that there's a secondary access to the subdivision. Each one of the homes in the zoning, we've listed in where the lot widths are going to be, how wide they're going to be. The minimum square footage of the homes are going to be a minimum of 1,800 square feet. They have our setback distances and a roof pitch of a 6 to 12 pitch roof. All of these homes that are going to be built are going to have direct access to the roads. We'll have garages facing the frontage and then of those roads, and none of the lots will actually front onto Hickory Street. One of the things in the ordinance is that we make sure that they will not have any driveway access to Hickory Street, that will be a solid fence along Hickory Street. Because sometimes people tend to list, well, I have access to my backyard, so I'll just come off the street like that. So we ask that be a provision into the ordinance so that we maintain Hickory Street. There is a cell tower there along that. That cell tower is not part of this development. It is not part of the annexation. So this development will be developed around the cell tower site. The northeast corner is the lot where the detention pond will be. They will intend to have a retaining wall that will be specifically engineered in order to maintain the detention pond. We also, in order to keep the detention pond safe and not become a playground, there will be installing a 6-foot tubular steel or a wrought iron style fence around it, and it will have an access gate that the city will have the lock to. So the city will have access in order to access the detention pond. Because those kinds of things do tend to hold up with higher grass or have trash that tends to blow into those types of facilities. So in order to maintain that, we'll have the access gates that the city will have the full access to. The home builder is a developer around this area, but he is also a resident and owns his business here in the city of Rome. His office is directly across the South Main Street from City Hall. And he is excited about the opportunity to develop within the city of Rome. And the Plan Development Zoning District holds him responsible to build what you see is what you get. So the way that the concept plan is shown, that is the way he is supposed to build it. If at any point he decides his building model is different, he has to come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council to change the format of his lot layout. He cannot change the lot layout. He has to plat it in that format. If he decides that it's not going to work, he has to come back for a change in the zoning, and that's the purpose of a plan development. So that you understand what the development is going to be, and then that is what they are going to build. With that, staff is available for any questions.
All right, but at first we have to have a public hearing for the zoning change.
Yes, sir. The Planning and Zoning Commission needs to open their public hearing, and then they can take any public comments for both the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Once the Planning and Zoning, or once the public hearing is closed, then the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to take action, and then the City Council may take action. Correct. Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Okay, good evening. Okay, it is 6:35 PM. I will open a public hearing on the number 5, hold a public hearing and consider an ordinance of the zoning of 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum Survey, abstract 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street, to PD from the agriculture it was brought in as, planned development and single-family residential minimum of 44,000 square foot lots. This is a public hearing, and I'd like any public comment to try and maintain that within a 3-minute rule, and we'll get through that. So I will open that public hearing at 6:36. Do I have any takers? Yes.
Missed it, I was outside. Sorry. Sorry, I was outside. Are we using city water?
We are.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. And real quick, if you can speak clearly into the mics, because that mic is a little distorted when it's on the sound, because it is going in and out when it's recorded. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, it is 6:37. I will close this public hearing, and we will move on to discussion. Commissioners, do I have any questions from you guys that you need some answers on?
I do. I've got a question. I guess I need to talk to a mic. Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Okay, is this on? Okay. I don't know, one of the things that coming with this annexation is actual Hickory Street. Okay, I went down Hickory Street and I'm all for the annexation, obviously, but, Hickory Street itself is not really rated for some of those vehicles, earth moving equipment, mixers.
It's not gonna be the kind of road that you take all this heavy equipment on. So I was wondering, and a lot of times municipalities do this, is require the builder to a point to, like, if you ever see a school being built, they actually build part of the road too in front of that school for the turn lanes or whatever. It might be beneficial for council to consider, upgrading that road to a point. I mean, a builder's not gonna redo the whole thing, no, mind you, but maybe that front of that subdivision right there, way mainly where those mixers and all that, bulldozers and all that stuff, you gotta clear those plots for, be included in discussion, because, that's gonna be potholes and there's a lot of traffic there, and there's only really about one way, if I'm understanding, to get in and out of there, still even with the emergency exit. It's still one-way feed. So that's the only concern I might have that should be brought up for discussion.
I'm just gonna point out that this is a P and Z hearing. This is a zoning issue.
Oh, okay,
This
my
is
bad.
not the road or construction.
Okay.
Is really not y'all's purview tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's right. We're still here to express our concerns, so that's
I'm sorry about that.
quite all right. But yes, this is to discuss and make a recommendation to our city council on the zoning, whether it's changing from agriculture to PD, plan development. So with that, I am going to make a motion that we recommend to council to accept this zoning change from agriculture, which it was annexed in as, to a plan development PD zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. I'll take voting. Yes, no?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Knight, who was the second?
Mr. Coolman.
Mr. Full.
You should have closed the public hearing before you went to discussion, so
I thought I did.
did you do that?
There's 30 seconds.
Okay, then you're good. You're good.
Okay.
I missed that.
All right, at this time, I'd like to turn this over to city council for deliberation or any questions.
Item number 5 under your original agenda.
Yeah.
Well, I have one question real quick. You said there's no access to the backyards off of Hickory?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The backyards will be facing onto Hickory Street. They'll be, the front of the houses will be into the new internal street that they will, construct. The intent of that provision would be so that you don't have, people kind of putting gates into the other backyards and driving directly off of Hickory Street into their backyards.
But it's their backyard.
Absolutely, but what happens is that you start, all of them start happening all the way through down, and you don't have a clean fence line, and you don't have the integrity of the subdivision.
And also, if I may, you have right of ways on the road, for utility right of ways, drainage right of ways. And they're not meant to have driveways accessing the main highway, I would assume.
Yes.
Well, for one, it's not a main highway, it's a
Well-
county road.
Correct.
If you have right-of-way easements, you don't put in a driveway anyway. You just open the gate and drive to your backyard. If you need to build something back here for your building material, or if you will park a boat, or you have a RV trailer. I don't know what type of room you're gonna have between your house and your fence, is why I'm asking.
Sir, these are going to be smaller lots, especially smaller lots than what is typically have been built in Rome in the past. And with the larger houses on smaller lots, which tends to be there's not going to be a lot of space for additional structures other than probably an outbuilding just to hold your lawnmower in.
All right, excuse me. Again, this is just for the zoning. We can discuss the plat when we get to the plats. Right now, the discussion needs to be focused on whether or not we approve the rezoning.
Okay, I was just looking through, for item number 5, under special conditions. Letter D reads, all lot purchasers will be required by deed to be members of a homeowners association, which doesn't agree with what we heard earlier, just an observation.
That may be a portion of the agreement that we need to strike and can be done through motion of council. It was my understanding there wasn't going to be a homeowners association.
I think it's
It may be just something that was in,
just over
yeah.
from a boilerplate. But let's address that afterwards. We can address, let's do this one first. Is there any more discussion as, for the rezoning? All right, with no other further discussion, do I have a motion to pass or to deny the change for zoning?
I move to recommend approval of ordinance 2024-19 for the zoning of 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum survey, abstract number 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street, to PD planned development for single-family residential on a minimum of 4,400 square foot lots.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, unanimous pass. Thank you. All right, sir, you have one more?
For this item, yes, sir, we have one more. This is not a public hearing. This is a recommendation for approval for a preliminary plat. The next step in the development process is to plat the property in order to subdivide the property into individual lots that will eventually be sold. That final plat process comes later. We want to make sure that public infrastructure is installed correctly, but the preliminary plat goes through the process and is evaluated by the engineer and staff in order to make sure that there is going to be adequate services provided and how the design is going to work and make sure that drainage is going to work. So with this, the plat is only being recommended to the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council because it meets the minimum standards of the subdivision ordinance of the city, as well as the zoning ordinance that has just been approved by the plan development by the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission. The further process after this would be that the construction documents for the public infrastructure will be reviewed and continue to be reviewed by the city engineer, and then once they are released for construction, they will go and build the public infrastructure. That public infrastructure will then be inspected and reviewed and accepted to the city, and then they are able to final plan and sell lots. So the preliminary plan is available for your review. We recommend approval of the preliminary plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, it is 6:46. We'll take that back over and we will, item 3 on our agenda here, consider the approval of a preliminary plat, Hickory Meadows containing 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum survey, abstract 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street. And this is for us to discuss amongst us and then make a recommendation on whether to accept the plat or not accept the plat change. Do I have any discussion on it?
The city's okay with this?
Well, since we are a planning and zoning commission, one of the things that we're delegated to take on are recommendations on plating as part of our general duties. So it's just to make a recommendation on whether we think this is a good deal for the city and recommend to them whether we do or don't.
It would be a very appropriate question for the P and Z to ask staff, has this application met the requirements of the city's ordinances?
And the answer to that is,
Yes.
Yes.
there we go. But we can ask questions of anything.
In the event staff answers that question, yes, then I have to tell you, under Texas law, you have almost no discretion to deny it. They have met all of the requirements that the ordinances require, and therefore it is a recommendation that you go ahead and approve the application.
Well, then with that, I will make that motion to recommend approval of this preliminary plat to our city council. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second,
I'll second.
Joe Hernandez? I'll take a vote.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll pass this back to council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Knight. I'd like to turn this over to council for your discussion or any questions you may have.
I'm gonna tell council you're limited by the same statute.
Yeah, because it's, again, this is a preliminary plat, as you all probably already know, and this is not the final set. If there's no discussion, do I have a motion to approve or deny?
I move that we approve the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the 10.285 acres north of Hickory Street as stated in previous motions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And motion passes. Thank you very much. And now, before we move on to the next item, for the Planning and Zoning Commission, would council like to put forth a motion to amend, ordinance number 2024-19 to take out, to strike item number D under special conditions for the concerning the homeowners association?
Yes, I move that we revise ordinance number 2024-19, item 1D. All lot purchasers will be required by deed to be members of a homeowners association. We should strike that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you guys very much. All right, now moving on to item number 6. Sir, would you like to take that one?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. The next public hearing is for a rezoning. This is for property. I apologize. They write things. Actually. So this is a public hearing for, subject property is 3.483 acres. This is located, just, west of, South Main Road. The property is, zoned, by the zoning map, for retail, and the, developer would like to build, 2 different things. It would like to build, townhomes as well as a retail site. The request is to change the zoning from the retail zoning as shown on the zoning map to a planned development that would allow both a retail site and the townhome development. For the townhome development, he intends to build 31 fee simple, single-family attached homes. That means that they are able to be sold as individual lots. This is not an apartment complex. And the intent is there that they are individually platted lots and that they would be sold by fee simple. There are 31 of those. In addition to the individual townhomes, there is some private streets that he will construct in order to make sure that there are adequate fire and emergency access. In addition, each one of the townhomes is going to be, as shown on our map here, those are the yellow sites, or the 31 townhomes. In addition, they will have access to those private streets. The garages will be facing those individual streets. In addition to the 31 lots, there's going to be 26 parking spaces as highlighted in blue on the map that will show those are for guest parking, so that you don't have all of the parking all lining up onto the streets, and so that you have head-in parking that's available for guests and overflow parking outside of those individual driveways. The other aspect of this planned development zoning district is The lot that is indicated by red, this is the lot that is closest to South Main Street, but it's not going to have direct access onto South Main Street. The intent of this site plan is that it'll be a 7,400 square foot retail building. And we'll have access off of Holly Drive there and be able to have an adequate amount of parking for the retail site and be developed separately from the townhomes. Each of the townhomes surrounding it is going to be some open space. There is a landscape plan. If you go to the next slide, please. There's a landscape plan for the townhome so that there'll be open space and open space areas surrounding that. There's areas for be able to help your dog relieve themselves and be able to have some open space surrounding the townhomes. The townhomes are designed in a particular way. We have next slide, please. So that you see on the top is the front of those townhomes where the garage on the ground area, and then the rear of the townhomes is indicated on the lower image. It is a mixture of stucco and hardy plank type of cementitious fiberboard. Mostly on the back, the stucco is going to be primarily on the front facing aspect of the structures. The planned development zoning district ordinance attached with this development is been designed to allow this particular type of development, but only this particular kind of development. The retail uses are going to be the same retail uses that are allowed within the retail zoning district of the city of Rome. And but the townhomes will have to be developed in this particular format. If so, at some point into the future that they decide this is not going to work for them, they will have to come back before the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council and ask for a change to the plan development zoning ordinance in order for them to build something different than what they have presented. I believe that the developer has been working with the city engineer and with city staff for a considerable number of months and being able to come up with a plan that is going to be acceptable to the city. And this is what has been presented. We recommend approval of the plan development zoning ordinance.
Okay, it is 6:55 PM. I will open a P and Z public hearing to consider an ordinance for the zoning of 3.488 acres of land situated in the Smith County School Land Survey, abstract number 743. Wise County, Texas, located on the southwest corner of the city and generally located west of South Main Street for a planned development PD to include townhomes and retail uses. It is 6:55.
And just for the record, this is a joint public hearing, so we're not gonna have two hearings back to back. We're just gonna have the one hearing.
So we will entertain anyone from the present if they have any concerns or questions or statements they want to make. There is none. Then it is 6:56. We'll close that public hearing at this time.
No, they gotta make their recommendation. They gotta make the recommendation.
Okay, we'll reconvene our P and Z planning to consider this motion and make a recommendation to council on that. Do I have any comments or?
So have they met all the requirements for the city?
Yes, and I would like to clarify that Mr. Sahihi and his team have been working on this since before I came to Rome. So this has been something that I understood had been before council, and I also understand that there was some thought that this had already been approved. They have been working very closely with the city planner and Kimberly Horn since I was hired to make sure that all the requirements were met.
Jump in there. This one is just a little bit different because you are approving a zoning change on this one. The other one is a plat. You don't have any discretion on the plat. But in zoning, you have absolute discretion. There is no obligation to approve a zoning. So a PD or planned development is a zone. It's like agriculture, residential, commercial. It is a zone that you are creating. And the regulations for that zone are what are set out in the PD. Okay, so it's a unique, one-of-a-kind zone that you have every right to question or discuss and approve or disapprove, as you see fit.
Steve, I'll turn to you. Is there anything that, P and Z would need to know to consider it like a homeowners association or?
I have not been in discussion with them about a homeowners association. Obviously, there's going to be open space lots that are going to be surrounding these townhomes that those will have to be maintained. And so therefore, there's going to be needing to be at least a property owners association of some sort to maintain those lots.
And Mr. Sahihi is here, if you wanted to address that, sir.
My name is Mason Saidi. We haven't really, this project got took so long. We haven't been in discussion to have an HOA or not. More than likely we would, because there are, as you say, there's green spaces that needs to be maintained. Either it would be maintained by the developer, or there would be created a HOA to take care of that. This is not a city issue. This would be a private issue to be taken care of.
I would say that the current agreement under special conditions B, it does say that the townhomes will be required by deed to be members of a homeowners association. So we would need some clarity on which direction this requirement is
Okay,
going.
if that's the case, we do create a HOA.
Thank you.
And then I take it that will take care of any maintenance on any open spaces.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, then I will make a motion that we recommend to city council approval of this zoning change on 10.285 acres in the J.C. Tatum Survey, Abstract 817, Wise County, Texas, generally located north of Hickory Street, to PD Plan
Mr.
Development.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. We have got some cross purposes here. If you would look at on the agenda commentary, it's actually 3.488, not 10.285.
I jumped my eyeball.
I'm sorry.
I will make that, we'll just hold it again here. Make a recommendation to recommend to council acceptance of this zoning change on 3.488 acres of land situated in the Smith County School Land Survey, Abstract 743, Wise County, Texas, located in the southwest corner of the city and generally located west of South Main Street, 4-day plan development to include townhomes and retail use. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll send this on to council.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. As you heard, this was the P and Z recommends approval of the ordinance for zoning for this property. I'll leave this up for your discussion.
I want to be sure of a couple of things. So they are going to do the same thing, just like we talked about the Hickory development. They will provide the infrastructure. They will tie into our, okay, and what about, does this stucco / hardy board, plank board, does that meet
Yes,
the requirements?
city is no longer able to regulate exterior building materials.
Thanks to the Texas legislature. Is there any further discussion from council? Not, do I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I move to approve ordinance 2024-20 for the zoning for the zoning of 3.488 acres of land situated in the Smith County School Land Survey, abstract number 743, Wise County, Texas, located in the southwest corner of the city and generally located west of South Main Street for a planned development to include townhome and retail uses.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. The motion passes. Thank you, guys. Now, at this time, I would like to call a 5-minute break so that we can rearrange the room in the P and Z and their people can hot smoke if they so desire. It is now 7:02. I'll call a 5-minute break.
Why don't you let P and Z go ahead and start their meeting?
I'm sorry, I'm being corrected.
It is 7:02. We will adjourn our meeting of the State Planning and Zoning Commission at this time.
I've got a motion in a second, please.
Motion is that.
I make a motion to
Thanks.
adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, guys. Okay, now it is now 7:03. I call a 5-minute recess.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's about Thank you.
Congratulations. Ready for real?
Sorry.
We'll give it just another minute or two.
I know it's crowded in here. We're gonna be taking photos for families, so if you'll just call City Hall, we're open until noon tomorrow. I'm happy to send emails out if you all just contact us. But feel free to take photos in here as well. I just know it's crammed and we're gonna do our best to take photos as well. Yes, yes.
Back where you belong.
I had to go eat to go.
You just look right. Okay, all right, it is 7:09 PM. I'd like to reconvene this meeting of the Rome City Council. Moving to the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. All right, at this time, we would like to move to we have a proclamation that needs to be read, correct?
Sure we do. If you'll give us just a
Sure.
moment.
Okay, all right. All right, resolution number 2024-12 in recognition of Municipal Courts Week. A resolution of the City of Rome Council recognizing the importance of municipal courts, the rule of law, and the fair and impartial administration of justice. Whereas municipal courts play a significant role in preserving public safety and promoting quality of life in Texas. Whereas more people come in contact with municipal courts than all other Texas courts combined, and public impression of the Texas judicial system is largely dependent upon the public's experience in municipal court. And whereas the City of Rome established a municipal court in 1999, whereas state law authorizes a municipality to either appoint or elect a municipal judge for a term of office, the Rome Municipal Court is a state court and its judges are members of the state judiciary. Whereas the procedures for municipal court operations are set forth in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure and other laws of the state of Texas. And whereas the City of Rome is committed to the notion that our legal system is based on the principle that an independent, fair, and competent judiciary will interpret and apply laws that govern us, and that judges and court personnel should comply with the law and act in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Rome, Texas, that the week of November 4th through 8th is hereby recognized as Municipal Courts Week in recognition of the fair and impartial justice offered to our citizens. Passed and approved on this day, 15 November 2024. Thank you.
Actually, you do need a motion.
Yes, I do. All right, council, do I have a motion to adopt this resolution?
I make a motion to adopt said resolution.
Do I have a second to adopt?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Resolution.
Thank you, sir. And if we could have just a moment, I would like to call our municipal court administrator to mind. She would rather I not do that. However, I want to make sure that you all know what a good job she does for us. And if we could just give her a round of applause, we appreciate that.
At this time, I think we have some swearing in, not swearing as for a change. So, I would like to bring up Chief Davis, please. First.
Showtime, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. I appreciate y'all's support and that you give us, to allow us to do the work that we do on behalf of the citizens. And as part of my job as chief, I bring on well, we bring on as a team, new officers and new sergeants. And it's been my experience in Rome that for whatever reason, God shines on us. And if you turn it over to him, he'll bring you the right people. I think you can see a whole room full of them over here from fire department as well. And I will say beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's absolutely what happened when y'all remember Sergeant Grant decided to go to the private sector. I thought those are huge shoes to fill, and I don't know how we're gonna fill them. Because we have difficulty right now competing with the Metroplex. The search for qualified, competent, really outstanding police officers is very difficult today. That's one of the biggest challenges in law enforcement. But so far in Rome, we've been very lucky to hit on some really great people. And Bobby Cure, who is nicknamed Bobo, but since he's not 8 years old and his wife Julie gave me permission to not call him that, I will refer to him as either Bobby or Sergeant Cure. Lisa, why are you not up here with the team? One of the traditions that we have here in Rome is when we swear in a new officer, we ask the team to stand behind them because we really all are, because of the size of this agency, what happens to one happens to all. And we're either successful together or we fail together. And when that happens, we have to come together as a team to celebrate those successes or get better at what we are not doing well. And so when we swear someone in, they're not just joining Rome PD as Sergeant Cure, they're joining this team of great people. So before I swear him in, I'm going to ask him to introduce his lovely wife and say a few words.
It's my wife, Julie. She
Come on
is,
up, Julie. We got to see you.
I've been in law enforcement for 31 years and she's been there the entire time. Old man. But Mayor, Council, thank you for having me and I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Will you do me a favor and hold this? If you could, raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
Bobby Cure,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of police officer
of police officer
for the city of Rome,
for the city of Rome,
state of Texas,
state of Texas,
and I will, to the best of my ability,
and I will, to the best of my ability,
preserve,
preserve,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, guys. Miss King loves to take a picture with new officers. So would we like to do that?
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. You know, you think I would get this down right, but one thing that we have to do is pin a badge on it to make it official. And he has asked his lovely wife Julie to do so. Let me get this for you. I'm just gonna skip that part. We'll be in there.
Looking.
This is your turn,
Stick.
Bloodly. 30-something years, I'm scared.
Now it's official. Okay, let's start from around. You want to? You're gonna around the time. Everybody go over and around the back. I'll leave this there. And there you go.
Finally, after years.
Oh, here we go.
Jim. Push it. Push him.
Thank you. You guys had a few.
I think you got big.
Yeah, I did. Just a few. Now,
Okay, so you stepped here, mayor behind. Yeah.
I mean, the council. If you're gonna plan.
Get up there.
Go get it. Red shirt.
You don't have room, anybody up here. Oh, no, come on, you gotta hide my belt.
Amanda, actually, if you go get in front of the here. Blank spot up there. That's fancy. Is he gonna do like he was just like something I'm not used to, so I'll get her.
Chair. Please. All right. Are we back together now? Second, I know I'm thinking, I need everybody to reconvene. Hey, I'm out. All right, at this time, I would like to move on in the agenda to the monthly staff reports and general reports. Board member, do we, the council have any questions on the monthly reports and the board minutes?
I'd like to bring to your attention, Mayor, that the fire department report this month is going to be in person. And so we can turn it over to Chief Estes whenever you're ready.
Yep.
Well, I'm not as versed as this as Chief Davis. He's done this quite a while. So I've got it written down. We're gonna swear in 6 members of the Rome Fire Department tonight. We're gonna start with 3 of the full-time paid members first. So we're gonna do it in groups of 3. They won't have to introduce their spouses or friends or whoever's gonna pin their on there, but once I call your name, you'll come up with the person that's gonna pin your badge on you. And then we'll do the 3 paid first and then the other 3 after that, groups of 3, since it's kind of crowded in here tonight, so.
Where's the fun in not having them introduce all their partners? Yeah.
Well, I know everybody probably wants to get out of here.
It's okay.
Family's important.
That's right.
So, but I would like to thank the mayor, the council, and the city administrator for allowing us this time to do this. This is something new for the fire department on my side. I've never got to do this before, so I'm kind of excited, and it's a way to the future for us, and hopefully we get to do this more often than not. So, great pleasure to introduce the 6 members. The first one will be Daniel Pierce. He's an engineer. Come on up. Adam Baxter, a firefighter, and Darian Anderson, another firefighter. These are 3 of our newest full-time members on the fire department. So, person that's gonna pin the badges on can come up now if they want. And they don't have to say a speech. You might
They're going
introduce
like
yourselves. Just don't poke them.
Bunch of pictures.
Perfect.
I'm recording now.
This is actually an exciting time for us since we're going from volunteer to combination, so, exciting times for us. Hopefully one day we'll have more than just 3 up here getting pinned on at one time. Everybody good?
Getting there.
Before they sit down, Chief, would you allow us to have a photo opportunity with these three and their wives?
Yes, we're gonna have
All of them.
three go back there to the back,
Okay, but wives also,
and then we'll introduce them.
significant others, whoever's pinning.
Then we'll get to introduce the next three, and then if you want to, we can do them all at the same time, so.
I'm not sure if we can get them all in there, but we will give it a good college try. So we'll start here.
We're gonna do the good with these.
Hop on in there, sir. Ma'am, with the white shirt in the middle.
Michelle,
No.
Michelle, no man.
You guys get a big.
Christy, I'm gonna get your pictures.
Go ahead, but then they won't get in there.
Look at the white shirts.
Chief, squeeze in so you're behind in front of the face. Jeez. Stop it.
Oh, that's right. Thanks very much.
All right.
Now, the next three, they're all certified firefighters. We got one, Dr. Sitzer, he's our medical control doctor here. Just a little short brief thing out of 17 fire departments within Wise County, we're the only fire department that runs advanced life support out of all the 17 cities here. Which is a great deal. Dr. Kenton's been here since day one on that, and, so we really appreciate him. He is also a firefighter in Virginia. So, and he's gonna go on a live burn with us Saturday, so he's excited about that. So the first one I'd like to introduce is Rhome Calhoun. He's one of our TCFP, he's actually and he volunteers for us, so he does this for no pay. The next one's going to be Griffin Castle. Come on up. Currently in medic school, paramedics, but he is an EMT and he's also a certified volunteer. And then last but not least, Dr. Sensor. He is our medical control doctor for our department. And he's also the assistant medical director for Medical City and Louisville Hospital. And there's going to pin the badges on them if they would come up now. They come up a minimum of 48 hours a month, just giving their time to us for free, and some of them give more when they can. So it's very important right now with us going through this transition of going from completely volunteer to a combination of paid. It's very important to have volunteers and keep volunteers around because they truly are the backbone of the fire department in America. That one had one in there.
Good start.
Congratulations.
Right.
Something real quick, I'd like to say to everybody got their badge pinning tonight. Like to see that, be sure you wear that badge with, pride, serve with honor. And always remember, the noble reason why you decided to put that badge on you tonight. Always keep that in mind. Thank you again.
Where's your picture? Yeah, Michelle?
Thank you. Y'all slide on down.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, can we get one out there? If we can get one with all stick fire.
Hold it, hold it, hold it. We need all the newly sworn in front of the banner, please, so we can take a photo. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I won't.
I just need.
I would like to. Get the minimum. I wanted some. Maybe, yeah. There you go. Yeah, there. Thank you. Now you do know each other.
Guys.
Too many.
Okay, one more council.
Let's get back down. I can't get on my knees. I don't have that cap anymore. I'll do it. Okay, I can. I need a knee. No.
I'm sorry, guys. Mr. Loftus, you can stand, I think.
Okay.
Yes. You're good. Mr. Loftus, there. Can you scoot? Yes. Right, as I say, you just scoot in the back. Y'all are correct. Perfect. All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Got it. Okay. All right.
thank you all. You are free to stay if you are so inclined to listen to city business. If you're not, you are also free to leave. It's just at your discretion.
As interesting as it might be. Okay.
Yeah, your firefighter that does. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your family member. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, echo now.
Okay, well, thank you for being a part of the community.
All right, everyone, we're moving on to the regular agenda. Number one, discussion and any necessary action. Item number one, social media technology update. Mr. Carvin, I believe this is one you were.
You can blame it on me.
We can blame you.
Actually, a requirement of the Texas legislature that you make this change. You add these requirements. I included a model policy in there. Looks like, city administrator has retyped it and got it ready to go. Was there any?
So what is in your packet, council, was the model form. When Carvin reminded me that we needed to update it specifically for Rome, I did so, and you have that loose copy at your place. It was handed out to you.
The one that was in your packet had the alternate provisions, and it looks like, city administrator has gone ahead and made the recommendations on which alternates.
Are there any questions or comments from council? All right, do I have a motion to approve the update?
I make a motion to approve the update to the technology policy for the city of Rome per legislative direction.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Kelly. All right, item number 2. Discussion of any necessary action regarding resolution or ordinance to change banking institution. Amanda, I believe this is when you want to put table.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to clarify, it's actually a resolution. This was my note from Carvin. It's got to be one or the other to change the banking institution, and I missed that when we posted the agenda, so we're just extra covered at this point. I would like to bring to council's attention that we currently bank with Wells Fargo, and that was in place when I came to the city of Rome almost 2 years ago. I think that was a recent change to try and consolidate all of our accounts into one particular banking location. And this past year has been one of extremely trying times with the bank. We've had some customer service shortcomings, for lack of a better term. And we have done some shopping. We've also done some polling of some of our neighbor municipalities. And we would very strongly recommend that we move our funds from Wells Fargo to First Financial Bank. That will give us greater access, a considerably higher level of customer service. It will give us a local contact in Wise County that we can deal with. Currently, our only representatives that we have to work with our bank accounts are out of state and in a different time zone to some extent. There's only 2 of them, and it makes it really hard if we have a question or challenge. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I want people to understand that the it's safe, it's in the bank, it's not an issue, but we very much would like to change to a different provider that is local, that if we have an issue, we can drive to the bank location and sit down and talk with someone about our accounts.
And as you probably know, I'm tired of signing checks 3 or 4 times. Because that's getting old.
So it's before you as a resolution. I gave that to you. It should be at your place. So if anyone is interested in allowing that change or you have questions, I'm happy to answer those for you.
All right, council, do you have any questions or comments? If no discussion, if there's someone who likes to make a motion.
I make a motion to change financial institutions from Wells Fargo to First Financial Bank for the city of Rome.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion
Thank you
carries.
very much. We
Yes.
truly appreciate this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, item number 3, discussion and any necessary action for cybersecurity enhancements.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have Brian Young from Fulcrum here with us. If you'd like to take to the mic, sir. He's got some information he'd like to follow up on. We briefly talked about some of these things when we were looking at some of our server backup options. And we've got a few questions that we didn't get finalized. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Not yet.
Okay. So as Amanda mentioned, this was something that originally was on the agenda, but then we changed gears and talked about the backup solution instead, and that's been fixed. Happy to announce it. So now we need to talk about one of the 2 proposals I have on the document there is actually required in order for the police department to remain compliant with CJIS requirements, which is the federal regulations that Texas Department of Public Safety can actually audit on. We actually just went through that recently. And this was one of the shortcomings of the audit that we had to fix. Specifically that you have to capture logs of what's going on your network, traffic coming in, traffic going out. You have to save those in a safe spot. In case you ever do have a cyber incident, you have to be able to produce those logs for forensic analysis after the fact. So the top one, which is called the SOC MDR services, which is MDR stands for Manage, Detect, and Respond, and then SOC is Security Operations Service. A lot of fancy acronyms, but the particular solution that we're recommending is called Blackpoint. And so you can see at the bottom in the little blue table there what the potential financial impact of those things would be. So just the fee to set it up to begin with, and then the monthly recurring costs. That's an estimate. It's based on actuals in terms of quantities of how many computers and firewalls we're monitoring, but that's pretty close. I based it on the actual computers that are in the environment today. So that's the top one. The bottom one, the penetration and vulnerability testing, is a recommendation, but it is not required. So it's not a regulatory compliance thing yet, although it is becoming. I was strongly suspect that the next version of the CJIS policy will have this in there, but this is where we can actually test. It's kind of like responsible hacking is the way to think of it. You can actually hire a third party to test whether or not they can penetrate the firewalls, penetrate your network and get in, and then whatever vulnerabilities they do find, they would give that information to us and we would fix it. And then as soon as we do that, we run the test again to make sure that we actually do fix it, that we're correct in what we did, and then we would do that twice a year based on this plan. So what the cost includes is us to run the test, all the professional services to fix anything that it does find both externally and internally on the network, and then we run the tests again to verify that everything's been fixed, and we would do that twice a year. Am I going too fast? Do we not have the paper? Okay.
Why am I the only one that needs this help?
It just makes me feel good. That's all.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm making you feel good. So it's not just you. They're all there, all acting like they found it.
Just for clarity, it's sitting at your table. That was a handout and it's got the little blue box on the bottom.
It was a lot of paperwork. It was just.
What's that? Just a minute. I can get it.
They all have it.
I'm happy to
It
answer.
makes me feel good.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but again, just to review the top line item is one that we need to do in order to stay compliant with CJIS policy at the police department. And the second one is just a recommendation, a best practice that's becoming kind of a new standard in the industry, is something that you need to have done.
So this MDR, it is just for law enforcement. It's not gonna be.
We would deploy it citywide, but we need it at the law enforcement for PD, but it would be deployed citywide.
All right, having attended a lot of IT conferences over the years, yeah, I'm always skeptical. There's always some sort of new marketing product. Where
Yeah.
They're renaming something, you
Yeah,
know, and
never
trying to
is.
repackage it, and sell it as something else.
Mhm.
So I checked in a little closer, talked with some associates of mine.
Mhm.
And the feedback I received from my one associate is that he would not, he's an MSP, his policy is he doesn't even bring on a new client unless they're gonna bring this on.
That's
So
becoming our new standard as well.
that's how much we need this. That's
Yeah.
my point.
Mr. Loftus, both pieces or just the top piece?
I think I would do both.
And financially, budget wise?
So council has made great strides in protecting us technology wise over the past 12 to 24 months. We didn't budget for this, so this would be a budget adjustment. We should have the funds, but I will tell you that if you'll recall, when I presented the budget, we were at a deficit by about 75,000. I don't expect that to be the case at the end of the year, but it will be something we'll need to monitor as we go through. So I'll leave it at council's discretion.
I would just comment further that, you know, now I'm assuming we have confidence that we can recover from our backups at this point. That's been tested.
Yes.
And so now we just need to protect ourselves from the compromise.
Yes.
Because if we get compromised, we're still gonna have to have time to perform the recovery.
Yes.
And all that other baggage. So this is prevention, and I can guarantee going forward in our world, it's only gonna get worse.
Agreed. Yeah. And another thing I'd like to mention, that just some additional, I guess, value or features you get with this is that the compliance part of it is almost, in my opinion, the least important part. We do this to be compliant, but this will also protect our Microsoft 365 accounts. So we've had instances where City of Rome email accounts have been compromised, and that's happened, and people have sent out like fake invoices trying to get people to click on bad stuff. This protects against that, and that's actually unique in the industry, that if For example, if Amanda logs into her email account at 8 o'clock in the morning and then 15 minutes later, somebody in Seattle tries to do the same thing, that's impossible travel. And this picks up on that and it would immediately lock her account down as suspicious behavior. They call us, we call Amanda and verify, hey, was this you? What happened? To explain. So they actually take action on your part. So it's not just an alert or an email. This is a fully staffed security operations center that's there 24/7 looking at all these logs and alerts, and they take action on your behalf. So it's shoot first, ask questions later mentality of this looks suspicious. I'm shutting it down. They may get mad, but they would rather be secure. And it actually happened to me when we deployed it internally. I had a private VPN on my iPad and they locked my account down because they recognized it as suspicious behavior. So it works. I can vouch for it.
So is there an option where we get the one that is CJIS required? And maybe have you look to see like later on down the road, if that's something that we want to do as a secondary, get the second one? Or are you sure that our budget can handle that?
You do have significant reserve funds. That's not going to be the issue. We'll just need to amend the budget. And when you think about the amount of coverage and safety we're going to buy for $15,000 a year, it's a small price to pay versus us being on the news and having issues that we really cannot afford to deal with. We just don't have that type of infrastructure. That would be my recommendation.
We would go with both.
All right, there's no further discussion. Would council like to make a motion?
I move that we approve and provide funding for the one-time purchase of the product SOC MDR services for $2,500 with a monthly cost of $695. And the penetration vulnerability testing, one-time cost $1,500, monthly cost $649 by the Fulcrum Group.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you much. All right, moving on. Item number 4, a park land dedication in Ellis Homestead. Believe if everybody hadn't heard about this, the lady that, or her husband owned all the land for that development. And way back when, there was some green space. If you can look on where the stars are, just to the north of, or top of it, there's a small plot of land there that her husband passed away, and they all thought that the land the city had taken it over, which had been deeded to the city, but come to find out, she's been paying property taxes on it all this time, and she wants to basically gift it to the city. But to do that, the council must accept that, and we bring it into the city, and the city will take responsibility for it. It's over a gas pipeline, so nobody can build on it. It's basically green space. It'll be green space along that road, so, and, yeah, it's just, we've been mowing it ourselves. But if the city takes it over, it was just a small strip of land there. And the city would take responsibility for mowing it, and just policing it.
Just to clarify, this does have a fairly significant water feature that runs through it. You can see where the second star is to the left, where the trees are kind of heavily wooded in a particular grouping. There's water that does run through that. I'm unaware of any flooding in that area. When I talked to Carvin about this, he wanted me to double check with our city engineer if we have done any type of study, and Kyle was not our engineer at the time of this development being deeded or turned over to the city. One thing he did state was I can go to the county and I can look at the plat and see if A, it was deeded to the city and we're unaware of it, and the county's unaware of it, and B, if a drainage study was done. He said it was highly, highly unlikely that that development was accepted by the city of Rome without a drainage study being performed. I just don't have a copy of it in our records. So that was one of the questions that Carvin had asked us to check into, because council has the right to accept or not accept this gift, because it does come with some obligations that we would need to maintain and mow. And again, much like the detention pond in the Hickory Meadows development, that's something that Public Works is going to need to tend to. You all know that in this budget session, we approved another Public Works technician. And we also talked about the fact that it's very hard to find those individuals to fit and do a really good job for the city. We still haven't had applicants for the position. So it's open, it's posted, but we're not getting any applicants to come in. So based on that, that would be something that if the city accepts the property, it would have that condition that we need to maintain some of the mowed areas. Now, you could tell from the photos that the whole thing is not mowed, just a portion of it. And those blue stars indicate the angle from which I took the photos. So this is part of the creekway. You'll also see that we have a fire hydrant in that area, which could use some thinning. So fire can actually access it a little bit easier. I have talked to Mrs. Makis about this several times, and she's been very patient in understanding council's workload and some of the issues that we have to get to this particular point. And she has also talked with the mayor. When I looked, and in your packet is the literature that came or was given to residents who were purchasing in Ellis at the time, and this was denoted on all of their sales literature as parkland. So this has already, as far as the family was concerned, this was done, and I don't know if through an audit of some of their assets, if it was realized that she was still paying county taxes on or city taxes on this property.
And if you're not familiar with that, if you look up to the cul-de-sac on the right, just just up from that is our west side wastewater treatment plant. That's kind of give you an idea of where you're at on this. But it's just a small strip of land with a gas pipeline running through it. She has no use for it. She just wants to give it to the city.
So what is the area? Is that an acre or?
No, ma'am, I think that's closer to 18 acres. It says on there, I can't make it out from here. I don't know if anyone else can see. Rex, can you tell from some of the measurements on there, how many acres that is?
I personally love the idea. I think we could do ball fields, we could do something with a piece of land that big.
Remember, the part that's the only open part that's actually usable has a natural gas pipeline running under it. So you cannot build any permanent structure above that pipeline.
But we could do some walking trails.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
anything like that is possible.
Yeah.
You just can't build any permanent structures. I've lived here 15 years. I've never noticed that creek to flood. Now, up on down from it towards the wastewater treatment plant where all the water gathers, and there's a place down there, but I've never known it to flood. But it's just land that's gonna be green space, or we could make a walking path eventually.
What would be the tax burden to the city? Would there be one? None.
And so what would be the burden to Mr. Dominguez and his crew?
We'll let him mosey up to the hot seat and answer that question.
Just tied to your question. And Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the corner of Renshaw and Rex, help me out. Mount Lane.
Yeah.
It runs from that corner all the way here, takes in all of this.
Okay.
It's
and then goes
drained.
here.
Oh, so all 18 acres aren't around the blue stars. They're,
Correct.
This is what it takes.
But the only usable piece of ground that's open and flat enough that you have to mow is right there by the stars, right next to the road.
Right here.
so about how big is that portion
It's
of land?
probably what, 2 acres at the most or less? A mowable, the part that has to be
Probably
mowed.
on each side, I would say. The blue stars only
Yeah.
indicate where I took the photos from to give you some perspective.
And where's the gas line?
Where the double line, the triple line is that runs across from side to side. That's your natural gas plant.
Yes.
On the other side of the road.
No, it's,
that's the gas line.
yeah, that's the gas line.
Okay, and then there's power lines going through.
Yeah. Power lines are on this side of the road, yeah.
I will say, a lot of cities with smaller property like this, they'll do pocket parks. And that's something that we actually have. If you'll recall, when the gentleman came in and had Mr. King, the itty bitty lot over here that he wanted us to allow him to potentially develop and the setbacks weren't sufficient, that's also designated as a park for the city, and that would be a perfect pocket park for Old Town. So as we develop as a community, those are the type of Maybe it's not necessarily a massive, big family park like we have, but if you have these smaller pocket parks, families love that. And it's just an added bonus to them as far as quality of life. So I would recommend that we accept the property. I just want you to be fully informed as to what our liabilities and obligations will be if we do. Mr. Dominguez?
To answer the question of Public Works, it's just routine. It's, you know, you make it a routine, we clean it up the first couple of times, it's gonna be rough, but it's nothing Public Works can't handle. Just add it to the routine and knock it out. It's not, like I said, it's not all 18 acres, so it's really probably 30 minutes a month.
Done.
But the 18 acres, you're talking about pocket parks? I mean, it wouldn't be one big park, it'd be multiple parks.
A little playground here and there maybe, or something.
Exactly.
A walking path. That's about all you can do there.
No basketball courts or anything like that?
No, it's not really enough land there. And plus, you have to be very careful what you build on most of that because of the gas pipeline. And the rest of it is drainage. It's all for the water drainage. You probably won't build anything on it. There's only enough room there to maybe put what? A piece of the children's playground equipment in a couple places, if that.
I think you'll have some more room.
Yeah, right
towards
there.
This area for maybe a small half basketball court or some small playground equipment. You have a little bit of room here, but more or less just walking trails.
Yeah, not much room there.
Yeah.
It's just green space for the most part.
So it'd just be a good walking park, the perimeter of it.
It's hilly.
Good workout.
Okay, that's about all it is. It's mostly just green space for the neighborhood. And we might can do something with it later.
And to Carvin's point, I heard him talking to the mayor. I may have misspoke. It might be closer to 6 acres. I was trying to make out the little bitty print on there, but looking at the CAD, it's owned by H Creek Development. And it says 5.86.
It's not very much. It's just it's just land that they thought they had deeded to the city out of that neighborhood, but they come to find out she didn't. And she just wants to gift it to the city so she can get it off her books. All right, are there any other questions or discussion from council?
Or if I'm just gonna jump in here and just remind you that this property does not appear to have been surveyed, so we will have to incur some cost to get it surveyed. And I'm probably also gonna recommend, just as a matter of due diligence, that we do at least a preliminary title search. Make sure there aren't any encumbrances on the property, that we would take subject to.
Well, could council vote to accept this property tentatively pending the outcome of that title search and the investigation?
Absolutely.
No, not here. All right, council, you have any other questions? All right, do I have a motion to accept or deny?
I make a motion to approve the staff to take the steps necessary to transfer ownership of the property and accept the acreage as parkland with the receipt of a clear title search and survey.
I will point out, if you declare it as parkland, you are obliged to treat it as parkland going into the future. And it would require an election to undo that designation in the future. So if you just want to take it to the city, you
Okay,
can
I'm
do
going
that
to
with.
revise my motion. Okay.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve, and direct the staff to take the next steps necessary to transfer ownership of the property and accept the acreage pending a survey and a clear title search.
all right, do I have a second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, council. All right, moving on to number 5. We are going to update regarding the Texas Municipal League Conference. This is one we postponed from the last meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. If you'll give me just a second, I did put together some information to help council have a better view of what all we're talking about as it relates to TML. So we were very fortunate this year to go to the Texas Municipal League Conference, which was held in Houston. We were also very fortunate to have two council members and the mayor attend so that we could go to a multitude of classes and gather more information, as well as speak to various vendors as it relates to the need of the city. These are some of the sessions that we went to: the Texas Emergency Management, the TML Legislative Update, Mrs. Ty went to, and I'm not sure who else was in that one because I went to the tiny lots and zombie subdivision, but it's was very eye-opening, the things that are coming the direction of the city. The active attack response and prevention was very good. The internal controls for small city, we went to that. Someone went to downtown revitalization. The public comment, the good, the bad, and the ugly was one that the mayor went to. Excuse me, no, Brooke and I went to that when the mayor went to when it hits the fan, effective communication. And so we'd like to just give you a little bit of our view of some of these. And I've put together this slide to talk about, you'll see on this one, the tiny lots in the zombie subdivision. Just these are the highlights of some of the information. This is a tiny lot to some extent that is coming to communities near us, and that really affects density within the city, and it has a more strain on the community. The more homes you pack in, the more residents that you have, which means smaller lot size, the more water you're going to expend to some extent. They won't be watering the yard as much, but you'll have more homes needing water. You'll also have more streets, you'll have more sewer, more everything. So just looking at this as far as becoming a trend in some of the areas, I would say this is something that council, and to some extent, I will talk to planning and zoning about this as well, that we'll need to be mindful of what this looks like when we have development coming our direction. You know, this evening we approved the townhomes for Mr. Sahihi, and to orient you all, that's going to be behind the Dollar General. That had been in the works for quite a while. So that's a different product than what you're looking at here. Zombie subdivisions was one that you don't see a whole lot of in Texas, but can be an issue in other parts of the states. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't occur in Texas, but those are generally the types of divisions that developer comes in and puts in a certain amount of infrastructure and then they walk off, or they are required to file bankruptcy. And the city is left with something that's a bit of an eyesore. And generally the city has to go in and maintain some of that and attempt to put some liens on the property so that you can potentially recoup some of your costs for the mowing. But this is something that they're seeing in certain areas as well, where it's just not coming to full fruition and build out. So these are the other type of things that we'll want to look at. This one was very interesting to me. It takes tiny lots to an extreme. They did talk about in this particular session how these homes are being touted as affordable family housing, but these homes are 600 to 750 square feet. And the only thing that makes them affordable is the fact that they are 600 to 750 square feet. When they've done the analysis and looked at the cost per square foot, it's right in line with an 1,800 square foot home. And you'll notice that you have a very narrow shotgun type of a style house. You have a single driveway. You do not have a garage from which anyone could store any type of equipment. And what they have found in other areas is you end up with something where you've got a car in the driveway, and if it's a two-person home, where does the second person park? Well, they may park in the street, or they may park in the street and block someone else's driveway. Yeah. So it's an issue. And so these are the type of things that we'll want to be mindful of. I will tell you, I had a developer kind of kick the tires about a tiny lots subdivision. I talked about our zoning requirements that are currently in place, and they did not recontact us. So just kind of conveying some of the information that we received from TML, because some of the other pictures that they showed at the conference they were quite scary from the standpoint. They also talked about homes that, or developments, mostly along the border, where there's not a single bit of infrastructure, no water, no sewer, no roads. And yet these makeshift homes are being built in the middle of a piece of property, and the developer either has rented or sold it to someone, and they're using outhouses. And they have to bring in potable water. So I don't I don't anticipate that for Rome. I'm just saying it was something that kind of caught my attention from that angle as far as being a concern. One of the other things they talked about was this accessory dwelling unit and the push by the legislature to continue to pursue these type of houses by right in anyone's lot, backyard, etc. An accessory dwelling unit is becoming more and more popular for people that have a larger lot size, and if they want to have a family member live in close proximity, they may build one of these in the backyard, or if they want to earn some extra income, they may build one of these in the backyard. The problem comes up that your infrastructure is not sized to handle that type of a load. You're not anticipating when we approve zoning and we have lot sizes. If you'll think to Hickory Meadows, that's the 40s, which is the ones that you all were concerned about, and you wanted to see more 50s in there. They're not going to allow for this type of structure. There's just not room in the back. However, if we've had some folks in Old Town want to look at something like this, or they've put in a storage building in the backyard even. That's something that the legislature is looking to allow to increase density in the larger cities that will really negatively impact the smaller cities. And some of the things that we talked about at TML and as we were going through these sessions was, and the mayor and I met with Andy Hopper at lunch to talk about some of our concerns, and we relayed the fact that they really need to be watching this in Austin because this is not the greatest thing ever to come. And if they are going to allow for these type of things in some of the cities, then they need to bracket that legislation to apply to those cities with X number of population, not just every city. And that's a big challenge because you pass a blanket law for the entire state, and then you look at Rome with 1,800 residents and about 600 water connections, and all of a sudden that becomes 1,200. And yet we haven't really added any additional property to the city. It's just people have put in these ADUs. So these are things that concern us in the legislative session that we wanted to make sure you all were aware that we'd gone to this particular training class, and it was very helpful.
Don't you have some type of regulations that would prevent this right now?
Well, your
because of
zoning
your
ordinance.
lot lines?
We do have setbacks and other things, but the legislature in Austin drafts legislation, at least in the last couple of sessions, that would eliminate our ability to regulate that, much like when Mrs. King was asking about the stucco and the hardy board. We don't have the ability to regulate that anymore. The development lobbyists have successfully passed and gotten laws on the books that we cannot. If somebody wants to build a straw bale house here in Old Town or in Ellis or Crown Point, there's not a whole lot we can do.
So is there any way that we can research ways to limit, deter, prevent ADUs, tiny lots?
I believe the best way would be through our zoning ordinances and our standards. We have to have that codified in zoning ordinances of what we allow and won't allow.
So we can ask staff to begin researching and.
I would like to ask Carvin to weigh in on some of this, if you don't mind, sir.
Would you like me to weigh in?
Well, if you could kind of talk about some of the blanket laws that are passed and the inability of cities to regulate some of this.
Well, it's sort of political science 101. Okay, we're a general law city. So basically we can do only those things that law allows us to do. We have to have statutory authority. The state legislature has the power to come in and restrict us and change what we can do. So right now we already regulate accessory dwelling units through our zoning regulations. But what they were hearing at TML is that the legislature can change all that. They can come in and say, no, city, you can't regulate accessory dwelling units. So if the legislature takes that step, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. We're stuck. But in the interim, we can increase our regulations or change our zoning.
So we're protected now. That's not the issue. If the state comes in like they did with the building materials legislation, then they take that out of our hands.
until we are a home rule city. Correct?
Well, they can also mess with home rule cities
Okay.
too, as has happened in a few of the cases. You know, this is a political dilemma. We can't spend public tax dollars lobbying the legislature, but you do have a right to express your opinion as long as you're not spending taxpayer dollars. So any of you in your elected capacities can go to any of our representatives or your representative and tell them how this would impact your city and try and get a little bit ahead of that train. And TML obviously can get out there and they can also try and explain to the legislatures what this would do in terms of impacting our ability to make the city what you want it to be.
And TML's not in favor of this. They have been very vocal in their pursuit to kind of continue to allow us to regulate ourselves. And that's why we took the opportunity when we were meeting with Mr. Hopper to discuss that.
He doesn't support this stuff either.
So I guess my question is, to the extent currently that the law allows, do our ordinances prevent, deter, limit what they can as far as that?
Best as I know. Carmen?
Is there any issue where we might improve, any area where we might improve our ordinances?
It has been a number of years since we looked at the accessory dwelling provisions in our ordinances, beyond my memory.
Well, we used to bring up the P and Z would look at one ordinance every time they met. And for revision or updating, that's something we did a few years ago. That's the one way we can is go through our zoning ordinances, update them, bring them to the council for approval. And that's one way we can protect ourselves for now.
Is there a way that we could minimize the impact of this, like an accessory dwelling unit, for instance, through our water utilities, wastewater utilities, to require a separate meter?
No.
You can require a separate meter, yes, but as far as capacity, that's where we'll have some of
At
the,
least it's a separate account that gets charged as an additional account.
depending upon how it's approved, yes.
All right. Do we have any more discussion for this, Amanda?
So looking at the colonias that I talked to you about, this is an example of some of those that don't have any infrastructure. And this is only along the border with Mexico at the moment, so this is not meant to be anything other than illustrative at this point. It's just to give you an idea of what we were dealing with. Does anyone else want to speak about some of the others that they went to? The emergency response was really good. We went to
The
that.
one, yeah, I went to that, when it hits the fan, that's what prompted us to go out and find a vendor to where we can more effectively communicate with the people, taxpayers, where instead of trying to use social media, which everyone there said that is taboo. That is something no city or no municipality should be using as a form of communication. So the best way they recommend is they have programs where we can send out text messages. People can go on websites, sign up for it. Information can be pushed, which we can either send a message or send a link that they can just click on, goes right back to our website, and then they can get official information instead of rumors, gossip and all that comments by people that's trolling along. It brings them back to the city website so they can get official information, which is what we need to do. And we're already pursuing that, so.
Council will recall, we just approved, GoGov is coming in, and we are working on an app that is specific to the city of Rome, and it will allow people to have pushed either emails or text notifications or calls even. And this was in response to not only the information that the mayor received when he went to TML, but also some of the calls from residents for that type of service as a result of the less boil water notice that we had. So we're very excited about this. We've provided them the information. We should be launched by the end of this year, God willing. So that was one of the other things that the mayor talked about. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I just awakened at the Facebook. Yeah, I want to get the city off Facebook. We are not going to use, due to the algorithms deployed by the companies that run these social media sites, We need to, want to take city off of social media. We will not be using social media as a form of effective communication. And as soon as we can get this GoGov account set up and get this up and running, the city will not be on social media anymore.
And I will say that
The bottom line.
the mayor has total staff support on that. It has become a less than effective way to get our messages out to folks. And it's come to my attention through events and notices that have been sent that people have told me they're not on social media and they're not getting any of that information. So, it's very laborious to keep that up. And if you have a comment that is specific to the post, you need to try and go back and answer the questions and things of that nature. But it's often the information's lost in the translation or in the post itself. So I'm very excited about this particular option and to potentially remove the city. That means fire and police and administration from Facebook and go to this GoGov app because it is customized for us.
And it also ties into the other class I went to on emergency management. I'm gonna meet with the new sheriff and try to get in with the Texas Emergency Management guy up in Decatur. I can't recall his name off the top of my head, but I'm gonna meet with him and go look at their facility. What I'd like to do is for emergencies, tornadoes, fires, hazmat spills, this room will also double as an EOC for us. We don't need to be at the scene. We need to be here pushing resources. So that's something I would like as we move on in the agenda tonight. This room we can be multi-purpose in this room and we can use it for that. If something ever happened in this town, we don't have nothing right now. No comms, no nothing. So TML was worth going to. For me, it was. I know I've learned a lot when I was there.
I did have one thing I wanted to talk about. I went to a breakout session where we discussed what other cities are doing and how they improved their cities. And I did get some information, and it's called Keep Texas Beautiful. And it's a grant where we can beautify the right of way of TxDOT highways or TxDOT controlled roads. And so I just thought I could throw that out there. It's called the Governor's Community Achievement Award, GCAA. So, I mean, feel like we need that Main Street.
I would agree. That's a great idea. And I think Brooks got some experience with that from New Fairview. And I believe there's some grant dollars available. So we can look into that for sure.
Okay.
All right, has anybody got anything else for TML?
I submitted a trip report and to the city council and city administrator. And so if anyone is interested in that report, they're welcome to contact me or I suppose through the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
I just can't stress enough how beneficial the conference was. It's going to be in Fort Worth next year. So if any of you can go to that one, please let us know early because it fills up quickly. And it's sometimes hard to get in and out. The schedule's pretty tight. You're going from either class to class and picking up things, or you're spending time in the vendor hall trying to find things the city needs or make connections. We took Mr. Dominguez with us, and Brooke also went, and he had a great time talking to all the public works folks that were there and making some additional
toys,
looking at new things that we need from the standpoint of public works. If you think about the Christmas events that we're starting to put forward, we made several good contacts of things that might come to us in the future. So it's very beneficial. And if you can go next year, I would highly recommend it.
And I saw the lights coming up near City Hall. I'm so excited.
All right, nothing else. Let's move on. Item number 6, allocating and expending the remaining ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Thank you, Mayor. You will have at your desk a stapled document that talks about where we are at with ARPA. It has taken me a bit of time to get this audit done of these funds. We are running up against a deadline. You will see that the agenda memo that's on the front of this, I have updated from back in 2021, prior to my arrival in Rome, when we started expending funds as it relates to this particular launch of money that we received from the federal government as a part of the American Rescue Plan Act. You will see that the professional services for grant works was $25,500 for them to administer this for us. We are now in 2024, almost 2025, so they have been working on this with us for 4 years. And then you'll see that I've got things grouped by the police department, fire department, whether it was technology related, whether it was administration, public works, or on the back page, you will see the amount of money that we spent for this configuration for council to host meetings. At current, we have 100,016, excuse me, it's too late. And you can see the number on your form. We have about $116,000 left that needs to be allocated. Now, the federal government has had feedback from several, especially small governments, that have struggled to keep up with all the reporting structures and to meet all of the deadlines timely. So we will need to enter into at our December meeting a MOU allocating the remaining funds for this project. So one of the things that I'd like to kind of group is the discussion on the ARPA funds, along with number 7, as it talks about options for City Hall. You will also see on your agenda memo where it talked about council did allocate $15,000 of the ARPA funds for an electronic billboard for City Hall. When we priced that, we found out it was more expensive, so we have not moved forward. And then senior center upgrades of $30,000. In response to some conversations that we've had with folks in the community and at the council level as far as what to do with that facility, we have had it re-inspected. And it now has foundation issues and very likely has asbestos in it, much like the old City Hall did. So I don't know which way council is going to want to go on that, but it's something to consider. The $30,000, given those concerns, is not going to go far in that building. So when you look at the concept of the funds that we have left over, and then you consider what we're going to do about City Hall. I briefly tried to discuss with you at our last meeting the options to potentially purchase or finance a modular building that we could place out here in front of the old school between the actual wall that was for kind of the keeping the street away from the children as they were coming in, and the old school building. We have about 52 feet from wall to school building, but we have about 138 feet in length that we can work with. So this is the largest square footage building that we could potentially get in there, and depending upon how we configure a variety of things will determine the final layout of the interior. I have gotten bids from 4 different vendors. The buildings can look similar to this. This is certainly not representative of what I'm giving to you. You'll see that this one has fender skirting that is the same as the material on the top, where this one has an upgraded rock facade. You will see that this one has an access point where they've built wood ramps steps from which to enter the building. We'll have to have something that's ADA compliant so people who are disabled can navigate into the lobby area. These are some example interior shots of an existing building that one of the vendors had, but I'm just trying to give you a view of what type of things would be available to us. But one of the other things that I had staff do at our last staff development meeting was we sat down in groups of 3 in teams, and we designed the interior layout based on what needs we may need as a community of staff members to serve the public out of one building. So the plan is, and I say this kind of transitioning from the ARPA funds to this, is if council is interested in investing in something of this nature, we would consolidate all of the police staff, all the administration staff, the public works director, and the fire chief in this building. That would then give us the opportunity, A, to stop leasing a city hall, and B, to sell the the police department area that currently exists on BC Rhome, which is really not being used to its highest and best use for the city. So I noticed that the 0.25 acres next to it's for sale. If we put our police department up for sale, someone may be interested in buying both to give them a half an acre and potentially put in another retail business in that area. So that could be something that we could use for this. But at this point, it's going to be at council's direction. We either need to commit the $116,000 to potentially a modular facility like this, or a portion of it to this and a portion of it to renovating this room and this room, so that it could be used as a community gathering space. Because we do have the ability to, if the seniors were to host lunches, or the community was to host lunches, or if we had pancakes with Santa, like some of our neighboring cities do, we do have a infrastructure of a kitchen area that we could remodel, renovate, and potentially host those type of things here. We could also add the EEOC elements or the EOC elements to this room, so that when or if we have a natural disaster. I mean, you think about it, we've got the train tracks to go through town, we've got 2 major highways. It's probably a matter of when, not if, we end up with a hazmat spill, and we don't have a place for council or anyone else from which to direct those responses. So this is a nicely hardened building, but I will tell you, above these ceiling tiles, there's nothing. There's no insulation, it's straight to the ceiling. 2 weeks ago, we had a cat in here that decided to climb through some of this area, and it did not smell pretty after the cat had been in here. So if we make a determination to either direct funds to one or both or split, we would want to tighten up the exterior of the building so we don't have the issues with the creatures coming inside. So the reason I tell you all of this is because I have priced this building. It's between $550,000 and $650,000, depending upon what exterior that we use and how long the building is. I have also talked to Government Capital about financing this through the lens of how much would that cost us per month. And it depends on A, how long we want to finance it for, and B, what price point we actually end up purchasing the building. The vendors that I have spoken to say that this is their slow time of the year. And if we make a decision to start moving forward and get the building into production, they could probably have it done and installed within 4 to 6 months. Questions?
Sorry, I can't read the fine print. What's the square footage of that?
That's a good question.
It says down there in the blue.
I cannot read that either.
$5,120. No, it's 5,120.
About 5,000 square feet?
Yeah.
It's possible, yes. That's the large, almost, you could add another 16 feet onto the end of it, but I'm not sure that that would really gain us anything. So that is really a fairly lengthy building. And it would come kind of to the edge of where, a little back further from the grass where it's at now. And so then when you put the ramp in and of itself, it would fit nicely in that particular space. There's potentially three additional entrance and exit points. You'll see on the right hand, very far side, that's the lobby area. There'd be 3 customer service windows there for utility payments, municipal court, and administration. And the rest of it is taken up in office space, restrooms. There's a break room in the back. There's a conference room, which we currently do not have. And there's also a briefing room, Chief, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's just one of the ideas. We were able to negotiate a 6-month extension on our current lease at City Hall because it expired on the 9th of this month. So I will tell you, it will go up again. And Mrs. Garcia's been great about working with us, but that's a valuable piece of property and she could probably make more money if we're not the renters.
So. Bike didn't work, I lost my train of thought.
Well, right now, we're looking, since we didn't renovate the old school, we gotta have a place for our people to work. I mean, even Aurora has a nicer place to work than we have. Everybody does. I think this is a great solution for the near term until one day in the future, maybe we can finish renovating the old school and finish that work we started a few years ago, but be that as it may, it is what it is. But, and that building outside, guys, come on, it's time to face it. wore out. And I would, if we take this ARPA money, we could use part of it to renovate this and make this our community center slash senior center slash EOC and meeting room. Cause we should have room in the new building to do council, correct?
No, sir, we still do count.
Well, we still do it here, but we need, everybody talks about the communications gear we have, doesn't work right. We could upgrade this, put the rest of it into this building we want to buy, or whatever's left over after we do this, put it towards our building. Because eventually, that building out there is gonna have to go, and we can use it for parking, because that would be another bottomless money pit.
Well, if you put this building in, move the place over,
Mm-hmm.
you moved, maintenance over,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have enough room for parking for everything.
Again, that's what I was getting at. We will have room for parking, but I think that building out front is gonna have to go one way or the other before it even gets condemned. It's right in the middle of the way for the fire department. That would give us plenty of parking for City Hall, so.
Well, what are you paying in rent now?
So rent just went up a little bit. We're about $1,900 a month at City Hall, and it will go up at the end of the 6 months. When you calculate in the repairs to the old police department, the extra electricity and all of the things that go into maintaining that building, being in rented space, and then just the time lost between staff members, because we're not in one location. I can't tell you how many hours Mr. Dominguez goes back and forth to City Hall, as well as Chief Debus and Chief Estes. We need to be in a centralized location to be more efficient, and that would help. Now, I do have pricing from which it would cost between $60,000 to $65,000 a year if we went 15 years on a building. And by the time you are paying the lease and the electricity in 2 different places, et cetera, you're there.
That's where I was going with this.
Not to mention, we're buying an asset that can be used somewhere else when and if the community is interested in renovating the old school, because we don't want to lose that asset. The old school is not something that we can ever purchase again. That's history that absolutely is vital to this community.
I think we've talked at previous, like I remember when we did our orientation meeting, we've had lots of conversation about a vision. I think this falls right in line with the vision that we're seeking. I like the idea that it's modular. It's an asset that could be moved and used again for different things and maybe reconfigured, to however it might be needed down the road. So I'm in favor of using partial ARPA funds for this room for senior center and EOC, and the rest for a new annex.
So some of my concern, and I appreciate the feedback, is the 116,000 has to be wholly committed at our next meeting. I'm not gonna have time to obtain bids for both. If council addresses either the 116 to the modular facility, then that brings the cost down, that brings our yearly payments down. If we then have a surplus that I expect us to have in the 2024 fiscal year that we just closed, we could allocate some of that surplus to renovating this room. So that's something for council to consider.
Let's go. I'm tired.
That sounds good to me, and my foot's killing me.
All right, council, and with that, again, we have to have a decision, so if someone's willing to make a motion as to where we want to dedicate the remaining ARPA funds, I'm willing to hear.
I move that we dedicate the remaining $116,346.25 and any additional ARPA funds that may be out there to the purchase of a modular building to be used as City Hall annex.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much, council, appreciate it. All right, at this time, number 8, we are going to postpone number 8 until we were gonna have our subject matter expert here for that and our advisor, and I'd rather have this person here if we're gonna discuss that so that we can make more informed decisions. So with that being said, I'd like to, pursuant to the following designated section of Texas Government Code annotated, chapter 551, Texas Open Meeting Act. The council may convene an executive session to discuss the following. Item number 3, section 551.074 personnel, discuss appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officer or employee, or hear a complaint or charge against officer or employee in executive session unless officer or employee requests a public hearing discussing mainly the city administrator and municipal court judge. It is now 8:33. We will convene into executive session.
Yes.